Okay, you first begin with, why does Muhammad have 12 wives? He had 12 wives, and the regular Muslim guy can have 4. Why, when a person dies, a man dies, he needs to have 72 huralain, which are like some type of angels, sex angels in paradise. But of course the biggest issue was, why does Muhammad, a 53-year-old man, need to marry a 6-year-old girl?
Welcome back to Exodus 2:14. Today we're going to watch another convert story, actually an ex-convert, an ex-revert, an ex-Muslim woman finding out the truth about Islam as a religion, coming to her own conclusion by experience and self-study, and at this point in time just completely turning away and abandoning the religion completely. And we're going to listen to Mitzi Mimi, and yeah, we're just going to see what her story is about and where she's at in life and why she left Islam.
I know some people aren't going to like it, but I as well want you to know that I am not a one-dimensional person. My presence on the social media is not one-dimensional. I'm not only here to show my bald head. That's not in my nature. I'm a multifaceted person with life experience and with certain type of beliefs. As you know now, I am history teacher in nature. I have certain experiences, and being a Muslim and now an ex-Muslim is one of them. And I know most of the people don't want to hear that, but that is my truth, and I will talk about it. And I see more and more people talk about it. I am so happy. I see more and more people speaking out as ex-Muslims to show to the world what Islam is really like. And there are majority of them actually are born Muslims, people who come from Islamic cultures. Last time when I was on social media, I as well was very vocal when it comes to Islam, migration into Europe. You will not believe how many people as well messaged me saying, I agree with you. However, I am now in a country where I cannot speak my truth. Really a lot. Egypt, Tunisia, Kazakhstan, and it warms my heart so much. I am so happy to see more and more people. You see, I was a convert, yeah, right? And so I'm a convert, right? And I had an Islamic marriage. And also I see a lot of people saying, oh, you must have... I was married with a Syrian man who came to the Netherlands as a refugee. And then a lot of people say, oh, your marriage must have been so shit, and that's why you view Islam so shit.
So this is actually a prime example that you will come across if it comes to converts, aka reverts, Western women, going after or going for Islamic marriages, and then just by definition converting during the whole process as well, out of free will. It's always a pattern you will see. It's always quote-unquote refugees coming from Islamic countries looking for a girlfriend, a white Western girlfriend, perhaps marrying or not, having children with them or not, and at the same time also being married or having a potential future wife waiting for them through arranged marriage in their home country. So it's a pattern. I'm saying it's always young Muslim men arriving by themselves in a foreign country, a Western country, and then all of a sudden there is no issues with mingling with non-believers, mingling with women, flirting, dating, having outside of marriage sex and stuff like that. It happens. Grooming, pimping out, exploiting. These things do happen. There are books, there are of testimonies of people, there are series, documentaries. You can find so much stuff of people experiencing that stuff. And it's not just the ones that get married and try to create this new life. It's also the people that just want to use and exploit people that are not from their religion, that don't bear the same identity, religious identity, therefore being inferior according to their belief system. And it's, you see it every day. You see it everywhere you go here. Young women being naive, do not understand religion, have been raised non-religiously. Most of them are atheists, don't see the dangers, just go along with it because they see those men as being exotic. They confuse these guys with Italian men, Mediterranean men, or Spanish men because they have similar olive skin tone and dark hair and curly hair, and they all fall for that type. But they forget that in the list of desired women according to Islamic traditions or Islamic culture, if people want to call it that, is that there was always this preference for Roman girls and the lusting after Roman women, enslaving the Caucasian women. It's crazy if you think about it, but it's like they passed it on through tradition as at least one of the four wives should be a white Roman girl. And even Muhammad, talks about it in the sense of fantasizing and having a preference for them. So it leaped over in some weird way or another. And she, as a woman of mixed origin coming from the Netherlands, falling for this trap is just basically another example of these guys taking advantage of weak women or women in a vulnerable situation or women that have bad relationships with their parents or came out of a very negative household or didn't have a dad. They know all of this and they take advantage. They isolate them. They play on their emotions, they love bomb them, and then they groom them, and then they can do whatever they want. That's why it's called modern warfare. And people are going to think about Call of Duty. Well, it's pretty much aligned in that sense. If you think about it, there is a reason why they're obsessed with conquering the world. They're obsessed with turning everything into Islam. They're obsessed with establishing Sharia law everywhere, because that's the only thing that they care about: dominating, ruling, destroying, converting. It's all about warfare. It's all about conquering. It's all about stripping away everybody's identity and personal beliefs, or at least recognizing them, acknowledge them through law, but at the same time giving them a hard day, like making them feel like they're inferior. And it's sad. But yes, most people that fall victim and become newly converts or reverts or become part of the religion, the deen, or women. Most of them are young, naive women, most of them. And if it comes to men, it's men that have been like the ones that got bullied, or the ones that weren't part of the popular kids, or the ones that were the odd ones out. Like, it's always a pattern you're going to see, and she's going to explain it. She's going to explain out of her own experience what these patterns are.
Actually, no. It wasn't it was a marriage in which I did not fit. But my ex-husband was not violent. He was not the stereotypical person in some ways, yes, but in this one, no. I was actually more religious than he was. I prayed more than he did, and he was born Syrian Muslim. I am going to talk about it because
that's why also Allah prefers and blesses those who are converts or reverts more than those who were born into the Islamic religion, in the Islamic deen, the deen of Islam. That's because out of their own free will, they want to be a part of it. They're more observant, they're more strict on themselves, they're more extreme, they're more fanatic in their beliefs. That's why Allah favors those type of people. And she gives a prime example is because why? It's new. It's like anything in life that's new, you're going to go for, and then at a certain point in time, you're going to reevaluate, and then you might or might not change your mind. It's also in human nature, and with some personality types, it's more present than with others. You just got to keep it in mind that that's their way to get you going. They only care about people taking that step, people joining the club, people becoming a part and expanding on numbers. They don't care if you're silently unhappy or you're questioning or you're doubting. They don't care. It's about adding numbers, increasing numbers, and using that as leverage to dominate other cultures and other beliefs. Because even if they might be tolerant according to certain laws, that doesn't mean that they care about other people, because they see them as inferior people because they're not there where they're at. So they're religiously bigger, stronger, and have more say and have more weight into the scale, put more weight into the scale. And they will let you know through society and culture once they're transforming it, once they're hijacking it. And that's the sad part. But you only come to that truth and understanding once you experience it yourself. It's like you can look at an outsider and see it, but it's still going to be different if you're inside and you experience it. And that's what she's sharing.
As a European, I'm going to say it, I am right-wing because I am a European and I see my country and my nation actually not only as a European. So this is a photo of me while I was Muslim with my mother. As you can see, my mother is a person of color as well. So I don't want to hear the BS about being racist and blah, blah. The world would be a much safer, prosperous, intelligent, if this religion would disappear from the earth. And you do that with education, telling people this is what it really is from the in every way. And don't say, oh, but this person on YouTube says this person. No, go read the stuff yourself. That is what made me Muslim. I became Muslim because it was such a mystery for me. It was such a beautiful old. Most of the people who convert to Islam, I was one of them, you either have some type of mental problems, like something happened in your past, you have like traumatic experience, somebody died, something happened to you, and you want to have some type of comfort with this trauma. And religion is one of the things which because in religion there is some type of explanation for your pain. It's very psychological, and you get. And if you then meet people who are Muslims and they are so nice to you and they are so kind and they are so welcoming, you can feel as if this must be the answer to my issues, I think this is for a lot of comforts. You want to be part of something bigger. You want something to answer to your pain.
That's the thing. What they do, they use the weakness of the Western nations against them by giving them or providing them the so-called solution or the answer to their problems. It has to do with, I'll give you examples. Let's say you're isolated, you don't have any friends, you don't have any close-knit family members you can bond with. You're basically by yourself, but human nature longs for certain things like bonding, intimacy, love, companionship, friendship, tribalism. Like all these things are engraved in our DNA. Now, what does Islam do as a religion? They come out of a Abrahamic tradition. They come out of middle I wanted to say Middle Ages. They come out of a Middle Eastern branch where they have those things standardly. Like there are places in the world where these things are still highly preserved, and it's what we would call traditionalism. It used to be present in Judeo-Christian or Western nations. You can still find it in Eastern cultures, Far Eastern cultures. You can still find it in Middle Eastern cultures, African cultures. There are some Native Americans, that are left that still try to uphold it. These things used to be ingrained in our DNA, in our mind, in our blood, in our heart. And all cultures practiced it in some type of way, shape, or form. But it got lost along the way if it comes to Western countries. And there is a reason why it happened. And I'm not going to go into that now because that's for a different video, a different story. But it's done deliberately for whatever agenda you might or might not believe in. And Islam knows this as a religious institute and wants to play on that fear and weakness by providing a solution to those people, basically being the snake whispering in your ear and lying and making false promises. And then they drag you in because you're in a weak place, you're in the lowest moment of your life, and you don't see a way out besides that. And then you get that embrace, that acceptance, that love, that brotherhood or sisterhood and that friendship, and you feel all those things, and it's all brand new and it's everything you ever wanted. and then you just completely indulge and indulge and indulge, but you skip over the essential parts. You skip over what is equally relevant to understanding the religion. Any religion, basically. It doesn't have to be Islam only, but any religion, that you understand that it's not only the good things that you experience that is more cultural tied. It's more a cultural thing than a religious thing, but it's when culture and religion intertwines and you can't distinguish it anymore, then you think it's the religion that provides you with these answers and solutions and wholesomeness. Now you accept that and you find your calling in that, and then you just go with it for many years until you start seeing the cracks. You start seeing the cracks in the porcelain, and then you're going to go in personal investigation and you're going to ask many questions. But that's what you should have done at the beginning, before converting, before reverting, before adopting that foreign religion. And that's the thing. What you also notice with relationships, when people get love bombed and blinded by people that have ill intentions, they don't see the dark side of that person. They only see the good side, and they will keep and stick to it and believe in it, even if they're in an abusive relationship, because they're in denial. And the same goes with religion. People will pretend they're not in a cult, but they're stuck in it and they can't get out. And they will keep lying to themselves and others that they're not in a cult, it's their own free will, can do whatever they want, and everybody else is brainwashed. And that's the same thing. It's the sad reality. It's part of human nature. In some shape, way, or form, we're all guilty. Some are easily awakened. Some can pry and see the light through the darkness. Other people are trapped in darkness like a prison forevermore. It really depends on your personality, your experience, and how you stand in life. But the sad thing is there are many people that get dragged into it because they never experienced these intimate bondings and meaningful relationships, and all of a sudden they get it all at once, and it's very difficult to say no. So I understand. I don't blame people. I don't see people as being in the fault. I think at some point we're all victims. We all become a victim to something, and that's just because human nature craves certain elements. And we will take it. We'll take it wherever, of whomever presents it. That's the sad part, that we fall for it, even if it's lies and deception.
And that's why you convert. And then when you convert, usually, and they made like a study about this, I don't know which one, I read it. I know it's in a study. I don't know the name or the year. But they say that most people who convert to Islam, they usually stay Muslims for 2 years. After 2 years, they usually leave the religion. And that's not without reason. Because when you first become a Muslim, you are absorbed by the community, right? And because they are not individualistic, the Arabic and Islamic culture is not an individual community culture. It's very group. So you feel, especially if you convert from a place of pain or loneliness or feeling that you are misunderstood, you are suddenly in this ocean of, how do we say, this ocean of family. You are part of the Ummah now, right? You're part of the Islamic community, and that makes you feel very happy. And then you actually, after that period, you start really studying. You start learning how to pray. You start learning prayers. You need to learn the Arabic language because you want to learn the book of God. That's why I am still, so many years later, I still have quite an affinity with the Arabic language. I don't speak it fluently, but some words I recognize, right? Especially like Islamic terms, I usually still know them. But after that period, when the group high wears off, you want to actually know what your religion is about. And then you start studying. You start studying the Quran. You start studying the Sunnah. You start studying the Hadiths. You start learning about the Sahaba. You start learning about the life of Muhammad. And then you can see like, wait a minute. This was not, I didn't know this before. But it looks a little bit off. And then you start reading the hadith and really certain things about Muhammad. For me, that was the deal breaker. I did not have any problems with prayer. I also had no problems with the head covering. All these things made sense to me. I began having problems with Islam when I started studying about Muhammad. And seeing that Islam prided itself so much on the morality, the more I learned, the more I thought, how is this morally okay? How is it? Okay, you first begin with, why does Muhammad have 12 wives? He had 12 wives, and the regular Muslim guy can have 4.
Well, not 12, 12 legally married, religiously married too. In total, it was like 30, 32 women he had this marriage type of agreement with. Non-religious marriages as well, basically just concubines and sex slaves and side women and all that stuff. His selective 12 plus still, but at the same time there were women at the side he was banging. So it's just basically how many he wanted or was granted, because he was the holy prophet and the only true messenger of Allah. And that granted him this unlimited amount, X amount of women he wanted, because it was of a different breed. And the limitation was set because also through revelation later on, when he talked to the master, his lord, where there was a limit that put it on. And it's basically, if you really study it from a more human psychological perspective, you could see it's a more narcissistic alpha male trait, where you're like, I want to be the only guy that is allowed and able to do those things. Nobody should equal me or be above me if it comes to those things, because my status is the ultimate. I'm the alpha male. I'm the Chad. I'm the big dog around the block. Like in that sense, that mindset, it's a narcissistic trait. It's an ego thing. It's how back in the days, you got to see that all these long garments and the things they used to make it, the taub and stuff like that, and the kaftans or whatever, it was a symbol of status, a social symbol of status that shows you're wealthy and rich and all that, and it's kind of like to brag, it's to brag without using words. It used to be flex culture. And if people use that as an excuse and say, yeah, but now it's just to show, you're modest and you're sober and you live a modest, simple, aesthetic life, it's basically the way you want to read into it. But it used to be about bragging. It's about flex culture. Now, the same goes for, having multiple wives. Upon this day, there are still, Arabic tribes that still practice it, that have up to 30 wives or 8 wives or 10 wives. I don't know the exact numbers. There were loads of documentaries of people going visiting these ports in the Middle East and finding these tribes that still perform and act out these traditions. And then they're going to say, yeah, so I'm going to say it is Islamic, so I'm going to say it's cultural. It depends on whom you're asking the question to. But the point is that it's also part of flex culture. Look, I have so many women and so many sons, and that gives you a certain status in the tribe and in the culture and the community. And that's something they're still practicing. It's not because they say, we're fine with just having one wife. At some point, they get the itch, and at some point, they do want to have an extra religious marriage. And you'll hear stories that first they were married, or they already had their first wife in their home country, then they flee, then they marry a new woman and have children with, and then they have 2 wives all of a sudden. Then they bring in the second wife, then maybe there is a divorce, then they're going to look for a third wife, and then even a 4th wife, and then return to their home country. It's always this type of complex scenario where the urge and the need to have multiple women to play their roles within the household and to be quote unquote sisters from one another, different age categories, and just being able to have this freedom to do whatever you want in a certain way. With those women, see them as usable disposable objects, but then at the same time taking care of them and their needs. But it's more about your needs. So that narcissistic element, that ego thing, that alpha thing, is ingrained into the system, the religious system. And you will see, because it also attracts a lot of young men that are like that, basically, what people would call the macho culture. They want to brag, they want to flex. It's about materialism, it's about possession, it's about dominance, it's about asserting your dominance, being the alpha, and all in a very toxic way. You will see there are a lot of Muslim women in Western countries specifically that also either end up single moms, get divorced, or they just completely refute Islam as a religion. They change their mind, they change their ways, and there are even Muslim women that rather get married to non-Muslim men or men that aren't from their same cultural background, and then maybe convert just to please the family, to keep it traditional. I've seen it. I've been in that scenario too. It's more common than people want to admit in the West. Muslim women in the West is totally different than Muslim women coming from Islamic countries, and they also are going through some type of a cultural/religious shift, but it's just taboo. It's not allowed to be talked about because it brings this type of disgrace upon the family. It's like she said, because it's not a Muslim thing. It's actually a Middle Eastern thing, an Abrahamic traditional thing, where people used to identify with their fathers and fathers' trade, and they used to be part of the community. They used to be, it's like a body with all the organs. They wouldn't function solemnly by themselves. It didn't exist. You were part of the community. You represented your father's job or your father's trade, and that's your contribution to the whole body called, society or your tribe. And selfishness wasn't accepted. It was not allowed. Me time and all that stuff. Any type of tribe in the world practice this stuff, but it's an Abrahamic thing as well. So people that don't know other stuff, they're always going to be, it's Islamic. It's not Islamic. It is not Islamic. You can find it in other parts of the world as well, where it still operates like that. And that's just something that people don't know or unaware of or unfamiliar with in the West, young people. And it's in their nature. They crave it, and that's why they go after it, regardless if it is Islam or not, because it could have been another religion too.
And there are majority of them actually are born Muslims, people who come from Islamic cultures. Last time when I was on social media, I as well was very vocal when it comes to Islam, migration into Europe. In every convert to Islam, they usually stay Muslims for 2 years. Family. You are part of the Ummah now. When the group high wears off, you want to, and then you start reading the hadith and reading why, when a person dies, a man dies, he needs to have 72 huralain, which are like some type of angels, sex angels in paradise. But of course, the biggest issue was, why does Muhammad, a 53-year-old man, need to marry a 6-year-old girl? This is that is the biggest issue. There are more. I already opened the floodgate now of this shit. But of course, if you know already these 3 things, and then the biggest problem was you cannot. And then when I was a Muslim and I learned about all these facts, I learned about all these things from Muhammad's life, which I could not say are morally great actions. How am I going to reconcile it with discomfort? This cognitive dissonance is the beautiful word, apology. Then you start saying, okay, but maybe we can leave Muhammad a bit, maybe I can pray to God. I can be a Muslim. I can still pray. I can still be a good person. I can still follow the simple Islamic things, and I'm a good Muslim, right? But then with everything you do, when you pray, at the end of the prayer, you send blessings to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You cannot avoid Muhammad. And at the time, I was 3 years Muslim already. My children went to like Islamic schools. My husband was from Syria, so we learned Arabic. My children started learning Arabic. All my life was surrounded by this religion. Everything I did was for this religion. My time was spent at it. You see photos now. This was actually a party where I just wear the head covering, a hijab. But I actually, in my daily times, I used to wear a jilbab. A jilbab is this longer. I had a niqab as well in my house. I did not wear it yet. Islam was very serious for me because it was my belief. It was everything. But the more I read about Muhammad, I thought, no, I cannot. This man is not the perfect man. He cannot. So I experienced a lot of cognitive dissonance. I felt uncomfortable. I do get personally a lot of peace and happiness from this religion. It gives me purpose, but how can it be so bad? So believe me, it's not that I don't understand Muslims. I understand very much why people are Muslim. I was one. I know it. It comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of wanting peace. That's all fine and great and good. Yeah, that if you personally you find peace, that's great. There is, however, there is a part of Islam, which is actually not the base. It's the core of Islam, that it wants to submit and subjugate and control and dominate. And that's what you see by Muhammad's actions. Muhammad was not a man of peace. Muhammad was a warlord and he wanted to dominate. And that is... So one of the things I did was watch on YouTube more videos. You know, of course I read the stuff myself and it gave me such an uncomfortable feeling like, no, this cannot be true. So I started watching on YouTube a lot of videos where Muslims would talk with Christians or with atheists and they would exchange ideas. And actually the more I did that, and I especially started listening to ex-Muslims who are of like Islamic origin, born Muslims, because I think they have the most experience with it. They come from those countries. I'm just a Dutch girl, basically. And the more I got more and more the feeling like I have to say that I agree with the atheist. I have to agree with the Christian. Islam cannot defend itself properly, because you cannot defend something which is morally wrong. You cannot defend that the Prophet Muhammad married a child. So then you have to come to a certain point where you can say, can I believe that a man who actively murdered Jewish tribes, who actively gave command to murder all critics of him, and a man who had 12 wives and who had sex with all those wives in one night, that's just disgusting, and who was a pedophile, who slept with a 9-year-old child as a guy in his 50s. Can I accept that this guy was sent by God? I cannot accept it. And what a lot of Muslims do, they come up with all kinds of coping mechanisms. Yeah, okay, yeah, we know he slept with a child, but God allowed it. You know, because they cannot let go of it, and I understand this, and it's painful. And so there comes a point where you have to see all the evidence before you about the nature of this religion. And so I'm only talking about Muhammad, right? There are so many things you could talk about Sharia as well. Sharia law, which is a collection of laws, but just the certain type of laws. Let's just say that a lot of the things that Daesh did, a lot of things which is normal, they don't just... You think Daesh, they just come up with these ideas? Maybe it's written somewhere. Maybe the reason why they throw gays off a building, you think that they just came up with that? Or you think that's written somewhere? Any case, at some point when you have so much evidence against your religion, you have to say, what is it about this religion? Why do I see patterns? Why do I see certain cultures, the cultures who have been in touch or influenced by Islam, why do I see the same problems there? Why does this religion allow beating of women? Then I have to be honest, as a Muslim, all terrorist activities right now are incredibly Islamic inspired. Why is that? Why? What is in the mindset of Islam that people feel that they have to do this in name of their religion? Why do certain kids get married very young and in Iraq recently? Why? Then if you are an honest person, you have to say, I cannot accept this. You have to say, as Muslim as well, I see so many unhealthy patterns connected to this religion. I see so many things which bother me morally, for which there is just not an excuse. And if we come back to the pedophilia story, I cannot send blessings upon a man who is a PDF file, as we now have to say on social media, actually. I cannot believe that. So, it took me a very long time to say that I'm not Muslim anymore, but it was very painful because it doesn't mean that I lost an idea of God or I believe in God. And then, as an ex-Muslim, it's very common for ex-Muslims to go into a type of depression. Because everything you thought was true in life, if these things are already not real or morally not okay, or you have so many evidence that it is not correct and you've let go of it, then it's like, wow, okay, but I used to believe in these things and now there's nothing in the place. It disappears. And that's a very painful period. And those who are very brave, they go through it. And then also in time, you will become angry because you think, whoa, I spent my life doing all these things, supporting and believing this, but in the end, it's not true. Not only is it not true, it goes against progress. And that's when they become very vocal against Islam. They want to protect. And the person which helped me a lot was Ridvan Aydemir, who is a Turkish ex-Muslim who now lives in America. His videos, and I'm going to link it here, helped me a lot. Discovering the truth of Islam, it's like a puzzle and everything fell together. You have your friendly ex-Muslim, also on YouTube. I see an increase. I see more and more people with Islamic background, or even people who were ex-converts, to say, this is what it really is. Go read it. Read it for yourself. Don't believe me, Start reading it yourself. That's what I wanted to say. That's my story.
So yeah, that was the video. That was the testimony. I think I'm not really shocked that she used the apostate prophet as a prime reference. Most people would say the apostate prophet. Who else? David Wood. The other guy, Spencer. What do you meme? The what do you meme guy. There were a couple of, I'll ask a little helper, like there were a couple of channels, newer and older channels that actually started this wave, this trend, so to speak. And I remember watching the apostate prophet once he shifted from using Facebook as a platform to uploading videos to YouTube. And when he was at his first, I think, 13,000 subscribers, I do remember something like that, like many years ago. And I'm not surprised. I think many more people, or you could say the added to the pile of, turning their back on Islam and leaving Islam and giving their testimonies, like Mohammed Faridi, for example, is with his podcast. Or there are so many names. I can't sum them all up, but there are many of them. Whether they're Arabs or non-Arabs, whether they were born in the religion, whether they had to flee, whether they're converted, whether they reverted, the Apostle Prophet, for example, as well. He went from, Sunni Muslim to Sufi Muslim to atheist to Christian. So, I mean, it's just testimonies of people and people that live that life or was part of the community and just talk about their experience and definitely their motivation, why they couldn't be a part or didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And what I want to add personally to it is that if people would understand that certain stories you can find in the Islamic scripts, texts, and you start using it as a way to understand the perspective of, Muhammad as a holy prophet of Islam, the only and holy prophet of Islam, and why certain things were necessary or obligatory, then you need to read it for yourself. That's true. That's a fact. That's basically what I'm trying to say. You need to read it for yourself. You can listen to people and take it in, but you've got to do your own digging and research before coming to a full rounded conclusion. I think people are too easy and too lazy to just accept whatever, whether it's pro or contra. But doing the research, doing the digging, doing the deep diving, doing the going down the rabbit hole is what really helps you and broadens and enlightens your mind and understand and see the truth. And the veil gets removed instantly because nothing will stay hidden forever. That's also something that people got to remember. So I hope you enjoyed this testimony, doing the commentary on the testimony. My dad couldn't be present at the moment, and he's not doing that well. I'm not sure what's going on, but I think he's not doing that well health-wise. So I thought, you know what, you guys, I'm just going to make this video. I want you to enjoy it, to share your own opinion. Maybe you've got something to add. Maybe there are patterns you recognize. Maybe you have seen it in your own home country. I think she's not going to be the first. She's not going to be the last. There's going to be more. And it's not because the majority of women fall for that trap through, refugee status people, men, and polygamy. It's also young men that are lost and look at Islam as a religion of guidance. And all these things are wrapped in a very nice wrapping, like it's some kind of ultimate gift. But once you start opening up and look at what it's inside, you will notice that it's not all glittering gold and diamonds and roses. And that's something you figure out most of the time by yourself. And it's with anything in the world. Everything appears nice and beautiful and perfect, but is rotten at the core. But you will only know if you spend the next amount of time really paying attention, really understanding and learning, really coming to a full conclusion. And that's also part in the beauty of human nature, that we have that opportunity, we have that liberty, we have that freedom, we have that choice, as long as we don't get ourselves pushed into a corner where it's stripped from us, like the clothes on our back. So thank you for watching. Take care, and hopefully see you next time, and peace.